I said we stand a chance against the military team.
Babylon, Babylon. At my window, all I see is Babylon. On the news, all I see is Babylon. And all niggas do is just Babylon. Money and hoes, more money and hoes. If I sold dope, I'd have plenty of flows.
Howdy folks, Max Mogan here, oilfreefun.com with your off news weekend edition. It is May 31st, 2013. Once again, picking on USA Today's weekend edition. You know, they're so lazy, they only put out a paper for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Don't even have cartoons. Breaks my heart. Breaking it down, this weekend's 32 pages total. 7 pages of ads, 14 pages of sports and entertainment, 1 page of weather, 2 pages of opinion, 8 pages of news and money. So 25% of the paper is actually news. But of that 25%, 70% of that is fluff. So only a small percentage, about 10%, is actual news in the paper. Let's get right into it. Okay, I'm going to start with money today. You know, I've been very active on the social media networks lately because I've been stuck working. I live in a tourist town, it's summertime, and we have to work for a living. Some people don't, though. And I'm speaking of the bankers and those who can have enough money that they can just gamble in the stock market. Now, believe it or not, the stock market is totally backwards, and even USA Today acknowledges that. What to watch? Why weak data are often good news for stocks. Okay, check this out. A day after the Dow Jones Industrials tumbled 106 points amid fears that robust readings on consumer confidence and home prices would cause interest rates to surge and prod the Federal Reserve to start dialing back on its market-friendly stimulus programs, the Dow eked out a 22-point gain on a slew of worse-than-expected data. So bad economic data makes the stock market go up. Signs of a cooling economy raise hopes the Fed will have to reassess its resolve to pull back on monetary easing measures, notes Kari Venema of Schaefer's Investment Research. Okay? Backwards land. When more people suffer, when more of us working class people, or people who've fallen out of the working class, suffer, the stock market goes up. Why? Because the Federal Reserve Bank, the private, unelected, profit-driven banking cartel, prints more money and distributes it to their friends. Okay, the stock market's inflated. It's in a bubble, and it's based on endless quantitative easing programs where they're gifting themselves about $85 billion a month and passing it out to their investment buddies who invested in the market. Lo and behold, front page of Money, what will they do with all that cash? Talking about corporations sitting on record levels of cash. A growing number of companies have an astonishing amount of cash, and they just don't seem to know what to do with it. General Electric is the nation's largest cash hoarder with $77.4 billion. Okay, Chevron, $21 billion. Apple, $16 billion. Goes on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's chump change compared to what the banksters are sitting on. But how do all these corporations have all this cash? Well, for one, they've been firing people for years, since the downturn. They're paying less taxes. They're not creating jobs. And they are benefiting from these quantitative easing programs. The stock market, as admitted here, the stock market is artificially inflated by the Federal Reserve Bank. These companies, their stock prices are at record highs. So they've got all this cash flowing in to their businesses. Additionally, with all the speculation in the markets, we've got commodity inflation. Prices are going up. So these companies can charge more for a lot of their products. Okay? Why do they have so much cash? The easy answer is record profits. I just gave you a few other reasons. But record profits, inflated stock market. Okay? How much money do they have? Cash holdings grew to $1.5 trillion, or 22% of assets in 2011. That's excluding financial institutions. Okay? What does this guy recommend? This Joker investment guy, John Wagner. A more aggressive way to take advantage of companies' cash is to buy shares in investment banks, such as Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, both of which have outperformed the S&P 500 index this year. Investment bankers collect fees for mergers and other events, and win no matter who buys who. Okay, got it? So there we have it. USA Today money section. Blatantly acknowledging that the stock market's rigged, that when the economy gets worse, the stock market goes up, and that they've incentivized human suffering. That's sad. The rest of money, a lot of fluff, not too much. Households still poorer. New report finds that after adjusting for inflation and population growth, the average household has recovered 45% of the $16 trillion total lost from the third quarter 2007 through first quarter 2009. Okay? So, as we all know, the poor have gotten poorer, the rich have gotten richer. Once again, USA Money, they devote an entire page to an ad, basically hidden advertisements for cars. So that's your money, America. Sports, whole lot of nothing. I'm not even going to get into it this week. It's just man boys hitting balls, man boys tackling each other, man boys beating each other up in a cage, playing hockey, throwing a ball through a hoop. It's disgusting. And there's 10 pages of that. Okay? Entertainment, life. Sounds like it could be sizzling. Once again, heavy coverage of Jay-Z and Beyonce. Terrible, terrible musicians. Here's the funny thing. What is your pantry personality? 49% nice and neat. 25% minimalist. 16% disorganized chaos. And 10% of Americans in this survey of 1,000 adults, doomsday prepper. Kudos to the preppers. Okay? It's all right to have a little food on hand when you don't know what the global economy is going to do. Okay? Big part of entertainment this week is just covering all these shitty concerts this summer. Pitbull and Keisha together. That sounds like a winning combination. Count me out of that. Here's an interesting article. With social media, who needs experts? By Josh Gad. This one's funny. You know, it's in entertainment, but it's basically just some global warming propaganda, and it's ridiculing the social media. You know, old media, establishment media, zombie media is threatened by the new media. And what do? They write sarcastic articles making fun of us. Get your new TV system, folks. Travel, garbage. TV. Don't forget to watch a lot of TV, America. 2 pages of TV in there. Alright, we're already into the meat of the paper now. Boom. Here we go. Once again, looking at our cover. Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, enormous pointless header. This is that advertisement for the car. This is sports. This is that article about companies sitting on record profits. Nonsense advertisement. This divide and conquer here. Churches sever scout sponsorship. Okay? This is a classic divide and conquer article. The Boy Scouts. About 75% of scout troops, it's because of the scouts allowing homosexuals thing, which is fine, it's great, no big deal. About 70% of scout troops are chartered by a faith-based group. Southern Baptists sponsor 3,981, Churches of Christ 546, and Roman Catholics sponsor 8,397, according to Boy Scouts of America. So the churches are not severing scout sponsorship. In fact, 2 churches have, out of 13,000. One church in Marietta, Georgia, and one church in Louisville, Kentucky. So to say for USA Today to devote a front page headline to churches severing scout sponsorship is extremely misleading, divide and conquer media, because there are 13,000 churches in the U.S. that sponsor Scout troops, and only 2 have severed their ties due to the Boy Scouts' recent allowance of homosexual kids in the ranks. This is kind of funny. Here's a quote from one of the head spokesmen for the Scouts. "This policy reaffirms that doing one's duty to God is absolutely explicit and one of the fundamental principles of Scouting, and states that sexual contact by any Scout, heterosexual or homosexual, is contrary to the virtues of Scouting." So hey, you Scouts, don't kiss those girls. Got to get you ready for the military, right? Okay, beef prices getting meatier. They hit record in lead up to Memorial Day. High feed costs, droughts, okay? Big tornadoes in Oklahoma right now, folks. Let's not forget that we live in an era of widespread, large-scale industrial weather and climate modification, okay? Why are we having these droughts? Global warming is supposed to increase rainfall. You're supposed to increase the amount of moisture evaporating from the ocean and increase rainfall. So what's with these droughts, especially at an era when we have the technology, when our tax dollars have paid for the technology to manipulate the weather and the climate? But, food prices, meat prices, ranchers culled their herds when recession reduced demand, and again when drought raised the price of feed. Okay, another thing that's raising the price of feed is inflation in commodity markets. See, and that is due to speculation. And that, my friends, is due to quantitative easing, aka banks printing money and giving it to their friends to invest in the global economic casino. Okay? Washington world, Comey seen as independent. Obama's choice to lead FBI could help quell current controversies. Okay? They're trying to, this is not news. Appointing somebody to be the head of the FBI, the grand scheme of things, is not news, especially when you consider all of the scandals that have unfolded over the recent weeks. And this Comey guy looks like another revolving door piece of shit. They make it out like he was trying to, he was going to resign because of the torture in the Bush administration, but he didn't. And since he left government, he worked in the hedge fund industry. He worked for Lockheed Martin defense contractor. And he took a job at Bridgewater Associates, a West Point, Connecticut hedge fund that manages $150 billion in investments. Then he worked for HSBC as they negotiated a $1.9 billion settlement with the government for charges of widespread money laundering. So this guy's been out of politics, out of the government, I should say, for a couple of years, and he's had 4 high-paying, high-profile jobs. Media split on meetings with Holder. Justice Department requires talks about leaks be off the record. Okay, so this is about the AP wiretapping, and the Justice Department is not allowing reporters to report on the meetings they're going to have to discuss what happened to free speech. It's funny, a lot of organizations, CNN, NBC, CBS, Huffington Post, New York Times, McClatchy, are among those who have said they will not attend media organizations sending representatives to this off-the-record, closed-door meeting. The Washington Post Political, ABC, and, of course, USA Today. Grow some backbone, USA Today. Your newspaper sucks for a reason. Okay, we still got cover of Syria. Syria gets missiles from Russia. Israel braces for warfare. Israel has already been attacking Syria with small-scale nuclear weapons. Okay? Israel is the aggressor here. And Syria is just defending itself from a foreign mercenary invasion within its own borders. Okay, let's not forget that. Interestingly, they're calling the rebels, the U.S. media has supported the rebels with PR, just as we've supported them with weapons and other supplies. But now they're calling them the resistance. So the rhetoric has changed, or excuse me, the Syrian opposition. So the rhetoric has changed a bit there. It'd be interesting to see what happens in Syria. I think we should end the war. So let's see, what else do we have here. A ricin-laced letter sent to the president, like those sent to Bloomberg. The message threatens gun violence. The letters obviously referred to our anti-gun efforts, but there's 12,000 people that are going to get killed this year with guns, and 19,000 that are going to commit suicide with guns. And we're not going to walk away from these efforts, Bloomberg said. Okay? These guys have been pushing the gun control agenda. Bloomberg, Obama, they've been pushing gun control hard. And I don't really trust them to tell the truth on any issue. So I don't really trust them to have a huge military industrial prison complex while the rest of us are unarmed. You know, I don't want to sound harsh to say that it's acceptable to have 31,000 gun deaths in the U.S. every year. But to put that figure in perspective, 2.5 million people die every year. So 30,000, 70% of which are, or excuse me, 60% of which are suicides. Gun deaths is a small percentage of overall deaths in the U.S. Violent crime with guns has been on the decline for decades, and it's at all-time record lows. Okay? Of those 12,000 people killed with guns in homicides, about 600 were killed by cops, and only about 60 were cops killed by criminals. So you got 10 times higher chance of being killed by a cop with a gun than of killing a cop with a gun. Cause of death, less than 0.5% of deaths in the U.S. are gun homicides. Not an issue. A lot of fluff in here. Huge ad. There's one article I'm really going to get into, but I'm going to save it for last. State by state, 95% fluff as usual. We got stories about fucking Peacock. North Dakota Drone Summit. Unmanned Aircraft Systems Action Summit kicked off. Guys love their toys. Montgomery, Alabama, Tea Party joined 25 other Tea Party groups in a lawsuit. American Center for Law and Justice filed against the U.S. Attorney General, Treasury Secretary, and the IRS. Filed in federal court in D.C. So, best of luck, Tea Party. I hope something comes of that. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, State House narrowly agreed to a proposal that would cut jail time in half for people convicted of marijuana possession. It's a move in the right direction. Other than that, a bunch of fluff. Full page ads. Technology, or excuse me, opinion. Okay, the opinion is on drunk driving deaths. Whether they should use interlock, blow in a tube so you can start your car technology to prevent drunk driving deaths. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a real important issue here in the U.S. It sucks people die from drunk driving, but in the U.S., less than 10,000 annually, down over 100%, down from 21,082 to under 10,000 in 2011. So there's huge progress on this issue. And of the 2.5 million deaths in the U.S. every year, less than 10,000 are due to drunk driving. So of all people that die, less than 0.5% are due to drunk driving. Not an issue in the grand scheme of things. Okay, your say, freedom of the press. Is administration right to crack down on leaks? Tensions between the news media and the Obama administration increased after news broke that the Justice Department secretly obtained journalists' phone records while investigating a leak. I don't know why they're coming out with this a couple weeks after the story broke, but here we are. It's funny, in their little poll here, most people interviewed, 44% versus 36%, said that the press should not be stalked by the government for doing their jobs. Interestingly, here, they've got all these letters and tweets coming in Well, USA Today, the ones USA Today chose to publish are contrary to the opinion poll taken, because they publish 9 of these little letters that support the government censoring the media versus 5 that support the press. So we know where USA Today stands on that issue. It's sad. National security. What sort of stuff are they saying here? National security is more important, and freedom of the press is no excuse for acts of treason. Okay? All whistleblowers can be charged with a crime regardless of the action reported. The journalists are lucky they aren't being charged with accessory to treason. Okay? What is free about people releasing classified information that puts Americans at risk? Are people okay with that? It's scary. Okay? So they're making it this national security issue that the government gets caught lying and the press reports on it. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to be killed by a terrorist. Certainly not, some patriot group or some Middle Eastern person from halfway around the world that has no means to even get to this country. Okay? 9/11 attacks were an inside job. Let's not forget that. Money can't guarantee happiness, but it certainly gives you a head start. Whatever. Fight to win. Here's the last word in the paper today. Terrorism is like cancer. There's only one winner, you or the cancer. To win, you must kill the cancer quickly before it spreads. To win, you must kill the cancer quickly before it spreads. As such, President Obama should not apologize for killing terrorists. Don't overthink it. If someone wants you dead, believe him and act accordingly. When the stakes are so high, you must err on the side of survival, which is called self-defense, says William Shazlovsky of Chicago. It's the last word of opinion. Here's an idea. How about you don't create the cancer in the first place? Don't create terrorism in the first place by intervening and invading and economically terrorizing countries halfway around the world that just want the right to govern themselves, sell their products in a free market, etc. Okay? Weather. Oklahoma tornadoes. This is before that. More tornadoes, folks. We live in an era of weather manipulation. Why can't these be stopped? Back to the top article of the paper. This is actually pretty good. Pretty good. I learned something from this one. Pollen plague. How climate change is affecting every breath that you take. Kind of a fear-mongery headline there. Inherently false, but we'll let it slide. As weather gets warmer, pollen is kicked up into the air and can cause respiratory ailments. Okay? As we all know, the 6 leading causes of death, only chronic lower respiratory diseases has been on the rise over the past 30 years. Okay? It's now number 5, below heart disease, cancer. It's almost overtaking stroke, and it's above unintentional injuries as the most common cause of death here in the U.S. So, respiratory ailments are on the rise. And this article says that it's due to climate change, specifically to increases in pollen and mold spores due to increasing CO2 levels. Okay? I dug deep into the field here. It cites a lot of pretty reputable science conducted by U.S. government scientists over a decade ago that says increasing pollen counts come with increasing CO2. Okay? I'm not going to dispute that science. It seems pretty legit. But what are the impacts of stratospheric aerosol particles on respiratory ailments, on asthma, on allergies, Rainwater tests, aluminum, barium, strontium, weird nanotech fibers like the Morgellon stuff. People aren't making this stuff up. So an article that looks at climate change and pollen and mold but doesn't address stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, solar radiation management, spraying chemicals out of planes, global dimming, climate manipulation, weather warfare, and the health impacts of the chemicals being sprayed industrially to cause these changes in weather and climate, or to mitigate changes in weather and climate, to influence them to manipulate the weather and climate in some way, is not addressed. One thing that's funny here, I'm going to read, this is a quote from Ziska, one of the top researchers cited in here. This is from a discussion on the National Institutes of Health website. Plant biology is directly affected by rising CO2 because CO2 is the sole supplier of carbon for photosynthesis. We all know that. Plants don't pull the carbon to grow out of the soil, they pull it out of the air. If they pulled it out of the soil, they would be it'd be like digging up the foundation of your house to build the rest of it. They need that strong foundation. Can't be pulling biomass out of their foundation. Because approximately 95% of all plant species are deficient in the amount of CO2 needed to operate at maximum efficiency, recent increases in CO2 have already stimulated plant growth, and projected future CO2 increases will continue to do so, with the degree of stimulation being at least potentially temperature dependent. Critics of the potential of CO2 as a greenhouse warming gas have stressed that CO2-induced stimulation of plant growth will create a lush plant environment. However, CO2 does not discriminate between desirable, like wheat, rice, and trees, and undesirable, like ragweed and poison ivy, plant species with respect to human systems. Okay? So point here, more CO2. Right here, USA Today admits more CO2 causes much more plant growth. Okay? So sometimes you read climate change articles and they say, oh, this CO2 that we put in the atmosphere, it's up there forever. There's no way to get it out. It's not true. Plants take it out. Okay? It's the circle of life. We breathe it out, they take it in. It's pretty simple. So, if we really want to fight climate change, free energy technology, expose weather warfare, covert climate manipulation, plant trees, right? More plants, more CO2 captured. You want carbon capture technology? Check out a redwood. Check out hemp fields. The options are endless. If it grows, it traps carbon. So this is an interesting article. I guess the biggest take-home lesson of this, after reading all of the discussion from folks like Ziska, U.S. Department of Agriculture scientist, is that it shows how little we really know about plants and ecosystems and the interconnectedness between CO2 concentrations and human influences on the climate and the ecosystem, especially in regard to plants. Most people see plants as kind of just like the backdrop of the animals, but the plants are the foundation of the ecosystem to a large extent. So it's a good article, but it doesn't address geoengineering, doesn't address global dimming and the influence of intentional human intervention in the climate and the influence that has on plants, on ecosystems, on human respiratory health, and on global politics. People are manipulating the weather for power and profit. And I'll put a link below, climateviewer.com. I've done a few videos on that before. You can watch this stuff in pretty much real time. Watch these tornadoes come through, watch these massive storms, unprecedented storms, and you can see these NEXRAD stations. You can see the lingering, persistent plane trails in the clouds. And it just makes you wonder, why are these technologies being implemented, and why are these storms decimating people, farms, livestock, natural resources, etc.? Is it disaster capitalism? Is it shock economics? I don't know, but that's my hunch. So that's the news here from Jackson Hole, folks. Again, apologies, this is not the best video. Been working a lot. It's stressful to work. It's hard to stay on top of things and keep your A game together when you're stuck working. Remember, the bankers don't work. The richest people in the world did not earn their money. They didn't work hard for it. It was given to them. They gambled for it. They printed it out of thin air, but they did anything but actually work for it. You know, typical doctor, they're working for their money. You know, local leaders, they're working for their money. But the people that are really, really, really rich didn't work for it. So help expose them. You all have a great day. Boycott Monsanto. Eat healthy. One love. Peace.
Wicked is out of surprise, you niggas know. Wicked is out of surprise, you niggas know.
Kick your games, bitch your flow. Can't fuck with this top dog shit though. Kick your games, bitch your flow. Can't fuck with this top dog shit though. Kick your games, bitch your flow. Can't fuck with this top dog shit though. Kick your games, bitch your flow. Can't fuck with this top dog shit though.
Wish I could see out of Selassie. Maybe my sovereignty will still be mine. If all the gangs in the world unify, we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight.
Babylon, Babylon. At my window all I see is Babylon. On the news all I see is Babylon. And all niggas do is just Babylon. Money and hoes, more money and hoes. If I sold dope I'd have plenty of flows. I was from the projects like J-Rock. I would've more than likely slang rocks. All my life I done been around Crips and Bloods, Pimps and Thugs, just to name a few. I do drugs, mama say it's in my blood, but she don't know what the fuck I've been through. To creep through the back door, the typical black boy in the good old USA. Before I push rhymes like Wade, I used to wanna play for the NBA. Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal gland, ancient ways of Sumerian. Ain't nothing wrong with a righteous man. That's why I had to write this, man. For my niggas on the corner selling water to somebody's daughter, fluctuating prices, man. I ain't got no gavel, I ain't tryna fight nobody battle. I just wanna be free. I ain't tryna be nobody chattel.
Wish I could see out of Selassie. Maybe my sovereignty will still be mine. If all the gangs in the world unify, we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight.
Them AK clips, they extra peel. Smoking on some of that extra kill. Purple, Urkel, that Jaleel. I put that on everything. If we could link up every gang, and niggas is willing to bear the pain, we put the White House lights out today.
Okay, KK.
We mobbing like we the black KKK. Don't forget my AKA Mayday. P on your PhD or your AA. Hey, dear Barack, I know you're just a puppet, but I'm giving you props. You're lying to the public like it ain't nothing, and I just love it, I hope it don't stop. I don't give a damn, nigga, bang that block. I don't give a fuck, nigga, bang that Glock. I seen an image of Hitler in the picture when the Twin Towers dropped. Peep the concept, you got progress, you got Congress. We protest in hopes they confess. Just proceed on your conquest. I ain't got no gavel, I ain't finna fight nobody battle. I just wanna be free, I ain't finna be nobody chattel.
Wish I could see out of Selassie. Maybe my sovereignty will still be mine. If all the gangs in the world unify, we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight. I said we stand a chance against the military tonight.
Extra pills, nose kinda ring like sulfurate. My baby needs some infamy. So bags get stuff like Oprah Green. Pull around, come back, oh for real. Top blue off, low fuzz and teeth. Get lined up like homeless meals. Feeling if in the hobby and homeless feel. Okay. Don't try to stop and get in my way. You'll get stumped like a Broadway play. AK melee, make it obey, okay? Feel my pain, going insane. I'm ashamed, cause I ain't got shit but an EBT card from a fiend that owe me innocent her daughter name. How the fuck is they supposed to eat? How the fuck am I supposed to eat? Got a nigga in the streets, no healthcare, trying to slang weed till I put shoes on their feet. So fuck you don't give a fuck about me. Can't get a job if they drug test me. Got a nigga stressed up, pressed, got a fill out of the chest in a world stripped of happiness. I ain't got no gavel, I ain't tryna fight nobody back. I just wanna be free, I ain't finna be nobody shot. Nobody.